Hello there. In this tutorial, I would like to show you a couple of ways that you can create end credits. The first way is a very quick and simple way to do this. In fact, this is so simple that I don't really need to create everything from scratch right on the screen for you. I have here a folder that I named End Credits, and I've got a layer here that is a text layer. And if I double click on this, you'll see that it's got everything that I might include for music, sound effects, voice actors, the name of the software programs that I use to produce the animation, and so on. This layer 2 here is kind of a dummy layer. I just threw this in here because the background is the solid black rectangular object, and I didn't want my text layer to end up being part of this vector layer down here. I'd also like to point out that I created all of the credits in a simple text editor first and copied that and pasted it in here so that I wouldn't have to type all of that into the text editor for this software because it doesn't have a very large window to work with. So you can create basic rolling credits with almost no effort, which is exactly what this is. I'll click the play button and show you just a little bit. The credits are rolling up from the bottom. So all I did in highlighting this text layer and starting at frame 0 with all of the text just below the bottom here of the stage is chose a random frame. I tried 504, and then with transform layer, as you can see, then I just moved it up, but I stopped right here where it says produced with Smith Micro Moho, so on and so forth. I stopped there at 504. All right, so that just created that illusion. The text is just rolling right along at a good rate, a very readable rate. And if you did this and your text was going either too fast or too slow, then you simply take the keyframe out here and adjust it by sliding it to the right or the left to change the speed. There are a couple of reasons why I put it all in a folder. One is because here I've got this background which is black. Since this is for end credits, it will occur at the end of the animation. I probably want to fade from the last scene of the animation gradually into black and then have the credits roll. And so this black background layer here is going to have to go through a little bit of a fade in transition. And if I close this folder with everything in it, then I can save this file as a credits rolling, naming it that, for example, and then import that into the end of a project. I can use the sequencer tab, and then with that folder collapsed, here in the sequencer tab, I've got one row right there where I can just slide this over to whatever keyframe I need it to be at, whatever frame I need it to be at the end of my animation. So it will start at that point. It makes everything a lot cleaner and a lot simpler if you package things up in folders whenever possible. So those are very simple end credits that will take you almost no time whatsoever to create. Now here's something that takes a little bit more time. First, watch this short example which shows this different type of credits at the end. Okay, so this is going to be very procedural, and we're going to take as many shortcuts as we can so that we get this done quickly. I would start out with a group, And the reason for that is, again, because I'm probably going to want to do the fade from the last scene and into black and then run the credits, right? So we'll go ahead and I'll stick this first layer in here. And I think I'm going to just call this one BG. This would be my black background that I would do the fade. And I'm going to create another vector layer. Leave this is going to be kind of my dummy layer because the next thing that I want to do is create text. And I didn't want the text to end up being applied to this background vector layer. So now I've got the option to create text layer, and I need to leave it this way because I'm going to set up the first one and then duplicate over and over. This is going to be a huge time saver. So I have a little bit of information starting out, all right? The first bit of information for the credits. And I'm going to click OK. Now the first thing that I need to do is double click and go to the General tab. I need to make sure Allow Animated Layer Effects is on, or else I'm going to just run into huge trouble. Also, for my opacity starting out, I need it to be at 0. All right, and then I'm going to click Apply for that. All right, on to frame 1. Okay, double clicking again, and let's see, I've got to set up the opacity, which is probably going to give me a hard time. I'm going to choose 1, click apply. That's going to make a keyframe, and then go back to 0. This is just a little trick to get a keyframe out of this. Click apply and OK. Let me click back here on the channels tab. So you can see I ended up with the keyframe on 1. So now I have to guess how much time for fading from clear to the color. So I'll try 1 second or 24 frames. Double click here, General tab, and the opacity is now going to be at 100. And I saw that 1 ended up still in there too, so I'm going to have to deal with that. But I'll click apply and then OK. So going back to my frame 1, I've got to see what trouble I ran into here. Let me just try 0 again and click apply. The layer opacity is one of the trickiest to work with, but there, you can see that I've got it. So it's clear, it's coming into focus. It's going to stay, let's say, for a couple more seconds. I can then just quickly plug in a keyframe right here. So that should be at 100% opacity for the layer, continuing through to 100%, and then another second more, and to the General tab, and I would go to 0, and click apply and OK. So then I should get clear, okay, 100% opaque, it stays all the way to here, all right, and fades out. So I've got my first one, and that means that I can get through the rest of them a little bit more quickly. I'm going to go back to frame 0, and I will click on make sure that this first text layer is highlighted, and then click on duplicate layer. All right, so I've got 2 of the same. So if I double click this and now change this to whatever it is that it's going to be, then click apply and OK. So now I'll have my next thing, and let me do another duplicate, and I'm just plugging in whatever little bit of information because I want you to see how you then line these up once you have them. All right. Now we'll stagger these. I'm going to click on the first text, click on the sequencer tab, and you can see this is the first text highlighted here. I'm going to move this over my play button to a little past 72 because that was when I ended the fade for the black background. And then I'll click on the second text and move this a ways down, the third one further. I'm guessing at this. Of course, you need to be more precise about it, but you'll see how this works out. Now, let me click on the channels again. Actually, let me go back to that first text. And here was the beginning and the end fading out. All right. Now I'm halfway between when the first text is going to start to leave, right? It's right about here. And if I click on the second text, I would want it to start right about there where the first one is leaving. So they're kind of overlapping, which I guessed pretty good. But here, and let me go now to the middle part of that fading out of the second text. I'll leave my scrub bar there. Click on the third one, click on the sequencer. So now I can see, and I almost nailed it there too. And back to the, I need to move this over a little bit. Put my marker right here so I can keep track. Click on that last one. Yeah, I guessed pretty good. And put this about here. So there's going to be some overlap for when the next one appears. Now, I've got too short of a time here on my timeline to demo this. So I just added some frames to that. So now if we watch it, the black fades in and then the text, then you'll see a little overlapping. And for the next one, a little overlapping, and you can overlap that some more. So now I've gone back to frame 0 and I collapsed this folder. Everything's in a neat package. You could save this file and then you can import the contents of this folder into an existing animation. You then can go to the sequencer and you can drag this down to wherever the end of the animation is at, and you will be able to insert the credits this way. All right, this is one way to do it. You can always just add your end credits right into the end of your animation file too. Okay. Now, keep in mind that when you do drag things like this at the sequencer, that this right here is sort of the best way for me to describe this. It is the frame 0 for this line right here and everything inside this folder in this case, right? This is the frame 0 where my green bar is at. Your bar probably isn't green. The very next frame there is the first frame for that. If I open this up and click on one of these, all right, this green bar right here, that's like the frame 0 for this layer, okay? So you do need to keep that in mind when you're messing around with layers in the sequencer. So this was just a couple of ways that you can do your end credits that are pretty fast, okay? Let me know if you have any questions.